For those of us who have been enjoying video games for a good while now, I'm sure we've stumbled across some pretty terrible articles in our time, but nothing could have prepared me for this PC Gamer article about Assassin's Creed Shadows and confusing the amount of players that have played the game with a different game, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and the amount of people who purchased said game. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT, and shout out to Hypnotic for giving me the heads up on this story as well. Holy crap, I could not believe it when I was reading through it to see specifically just how dumb some journos really are. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out smashjt.com for the full article. I will link it in the description below. And as far as this video is concerned, sure, we all love dunking on game journals because it's like the easiest thing to do these days, but nothing could prepare me for just the lack of intellect on this gentleman that we'll be discussing today. At least I think it's a gentleman. It kind of looks like a dude, and he's got a dude's name, so we'll go with that. I didn't think gaming journalism could fall any lower, but then I stumbled across this article from PC Gamer by Stevie Bonifield titled Assassin's Creed Shadows hits 2 million players, putting it on track to be the series' most successful game yet. And let me tell you, this might just be the worst piece of reporting I've ever read in my entire life. It's not just bad, it's insultingly bad. And thinking back on articles that I've read over the years, that's a big yikes. A yikes to the point where I'm wondering how this character even found his way into a career of games journalism in the first place, outside of, I don't know, nepotism, because that seems to be the default in the game industry these days. But holy crap, buddy, if you don't know the difference between the amount of players playing a game and the amount of people that actually purchase a game, I don't know what to tell you. Players do not equal sales. How is this hard? Right out of the gate, Stevie, who apparently specializes in gaming gear and accessories, reports that Assassin's Creed Shadows has hit 2 million players. Cool. But then he immediately pivots to comparing this number with the sales milestones of Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, stating specifically, at the time of writing, Shadow's all-time peak concurrent player count on Steam is hovering at just over 60,000, within spitting distance of Odyssey's record of 62,069, but far beyond Origins' 41,551 and Valhalla 15,679. If Shadows continues to attract new players at this rate, it could pass Odyssey's record in a matter of days. Which, cool, I guess if you want to say those words and put them together, good for you, but it doesn't actually mean anything, especially relative to these games you're comparing it to, where many of them were not available on day one, and the sheer amount of increased player count on Steam itself over the years, you think would lend some sort of attribute to, I don't know, more people just by default purchasing a major AAA blockbuster title, and it can't even do that. It's not just misleading, it's either flat out willful ignorance or a desperate attempt to push a marketing narrative for Ubisoft. Honestly, it might be both, but let me spell it out for anyone still confused here, including Stevie, who I hope will watch this video and pay close attention to the information dispersed here and hopefully use it to improve going forward. For all games, a general rule of thumb for players engaged typically includes anyone that boots it up on the proprietary booter or Game Pass or friend sharing, borrowed accounts. It also adds in Steam players who had purchased the game and returned it for a full refund within a 2-hour window. It includes, in this case, copies given out for free for everyone purchasing a new Intel processor. For all we know, Ubisoft is being funny with the numbers, and it could even count every single time someone boots up the game. We don't know because they didn't actually tell us what they meant by players engaged, which you would think is, I don't know, kind of an important thing to divulge when you say these kind of things. And then comparing that to units sold means, well, units sold. That was pretty straightforward. But for some reason, Stevie has confused the two, and it blew my mind. Players engaged and units sold are not the same thing. In fact, they're not even in the same galaxy. You'd think a supposed journalist would know all that, but apparently we're living in an era where clickbait and parroting corporate press releases counts as reporting. I refuse to believe that someone could actually be as stupid as this article comes across to me. They said, in fact, Shadows is on track to be one of the biggest game releases of the year. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was hailed as a hit earlier this year and took 2 weeks to hit 2 million players, a milestone Shadows reached in just a few days. And I gotta be honest, when I read that, I'm just like face palming myself. Like, how could you even write that seriously and then have it go through what I would think is an editor approving it and then publishing it onto a website? How can you do that? Ubisoft hasn't released any of the actual hard sales numbers for Shadows. Wonder why that is. Probably because they aren't as strong as they had originally hoped. So now instead, they're trotting out a 2 million players stat. Conveniently vague, conveniently unverifiable, and lets sites like PC Gamer run with it like it's gospel. It would be fantastic if Ubisoft actually provided some transparency and context for what exactly they mean and how they came up with that number, but no. Rather than asking any real questions for press for clarity, Stevie is gleefully claiming that Shadows is just a katana slash away from being the biggest Assassin's Creed game ever. And I gotta take a step back from that and say, based off of what? Vibes? Corporate hype? Like, why would you say this is on the verge of being one of the biggest Assassin's Creed games ever when there's literally nothing to back that up? In fact, the situation is so ridiculous that if you swapped out the byline of who wrote this, I honestly wouldn't be able to tell if this article was written by Ubisoft marketing themselves or someone who's supposedly a part of the actual gaming press. And ironically, in all of this mess, that's the real tragedy here. It shows just how far standards in journalism and gaming really have fallen, and it is embarrassing. Gaming journalism today has become little more than a glorified megaphone for publishers. Critical thinking is all but gone, and skepticism is dead. Unless the said game goes against the Marxism messaging, then yeah, sure, I guess it's perfectly fine to slam that game with libel and hate it for all you can because it flies in the face of the message. And ultimately, the more digging you do in the game industry, you realize that the people that are in it aren't in it because they love gaming, they're in it because they can push their ideologies and try to use gaming as an avenue to go there. So in its place, we have a breathless article like this one, where engagement metrics are dressed up in sales and comparisons are made between fundamentally two different things. It isn't even like apples and oranges. It's like comparing a ham sandwich to a spaceship. Worse yet, this piece tries its darndest to shoehorn in the last-minute culture war jab, accusing anyone who questioned the historical accuracy of Shadows of being part of some sort of racist outraged mob. Specifically the part where he says, players don't seem to have been deterred by the culture war controversy drummed up in the lead up to Assassin's Creed Shadows, which saw predominantly Western influencers and other commentators spreading a racist reaction to Black Samurai co-protagonist Yasuke through complaints of historical accuracy, in quotes. Despite the fact that Yasuke was a real person and the first Black Samurai, which that is not a fact. That is actually why people were talking about the situation and how Ubisoft and others were allegedly updating the Wikipedia entries, trying to change it so that it looked like he actually was a samurai when that wasn't the case. And they were referencing Thomas Lockley, who was caught lying to sell books. The best part about all this is he continues saying, these so-called history buffs are suspiciously quiet on The Last Samurai, starring Tom Cruise. And holy crap, I don't know how to tell this guy if he hasn't watched the movie and he's just listening to other people perpetuating more lies. But in The Last Samurai, Cruise portrays Captain Nathan Algren, a former US military officer hired to train Japan's new Imperial Army in modern warfare techniques. He was not a samurai in the movie. His journey reflects a deep respect and assimilation for their traditions, but he remains an outsider who aligns himself with the samurai cause, which is something you would know if you actually watched the movie. And holy crap, this article could not get any worse if it tried. Why? Because apparently in Stevie's eyes, the facts weren't strong enough to carry the article without trying to score some sort of all too important political points against the opposition, the gamers, the people that actually want the games to be good and expect better out of the companies for the money that they're spending on the games, yeah, the press isn't a big fan of YouTubers for that reason. I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I'm standing by it until the end of time. If Assassin's Creed Shadows really is a massive success like Ubisoft is trying to tell everyone it is, then great. Let's see the actual sales numbers, not some sort of vague player engagement metric that's being pushed as a fact. While I'm recording this video, just a quick check on a Sunday afternoon when people are able to be at home playing a game, it has only 51,937 players playing it concurrently right now on the first weekend of this game being available to the masses. That is pathetically embarrassing for a massive AAA title that was in the works for years. We're talking 5+ years, hundreds of millions of dollars in effort to put it out there, and they can't even crack 65,000 people concurrently on Steam as soon as the game launched. Yikes, Ubisoft. It makes you wonder why Ubisoft is so concerned about being transparent and letting people know how many sales they actually have. Almost like the game is not doing anywhere close to as well as they had hoped. And more bad news is in store for Ubisoft, and I would expect we'd hear something about layoffs coming up very soon. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. If you guys want more information, check out smashjt.com for the full article. I will link this in the description below. If you appreciate what I'm doing, hit that join button. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing.
Smash it,